Hello, welcome back to Zekism, and I'm going to do something I didn't really want to do, and I'm going to talk about the Stephen Colbert controversy, cancellation. For those of you who've been living under a rock, I know the whole internet is a buzz talking about it. Stephen Colbert, The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, has been cancelled, or is in the process of being cancelled. They've got another, 10 months, and then he's going away in May or March next year. Apologies, should have had that ready. But yeah, the internet is a buzz of various takes, both right and left, and I have no dog in the fight. Just for context, I am a middle ground, easy sort of. I don't really care either way sort of person. I watch Stephen Colbert as I watch sort of all media, both left and right, to sort of gain a more balanced view. I understand the partisan sort of takes. People have obviously shown their bias over the last 10 years towards where they lean politically, especially in sort of media and Hollywood and so forth. You've got the news networks being very sort of either staunchly left or staunchly right. You've got the late night shows, clearly what we're talking about here, mostly being very, very left. And you've got, by the way, it's the same sort of all over the world, seemingly. Here in the UK, we have very similar political agendas now. So it has seeped in seemingly across the board. You've got films mostly being made towards the left-wing leaning spectrum, even in blockbusters, where it doesn't warrant being in there. And then, so politics has infested everything over the last 10 to 12 years, to the point where it's really not fun anymore, to be honest with you. So that's from where I'm coming from politically. I don't really care. I'm a little bit of an ostrich when it comes to politics and delve my head in the ground. I think I would always advocate objectivity about everything. I don't really believe in nailing your colours to any particular political leaning or party. I think every single issue should be argued and an opinion formed about every sort of topic, or in isolation. I don't believe you should ever follow a party or follow an agenda or anything like that. So that's where I'm coming from. I'm objective in all things in life. I really don't like sort of unobjectivity. So here we go. We'll get into Stephen Colbert, who's obviously showing himself to be very, very left-leaning, very, very anti-Trump critic. And so I thought I would do a similar thing in show what someone like the Hollywood Reporter, who's obviously very pro Stephen Colbert, and what they are saying about it. And we'll go into the article, and I will also go into, I've got a Fox News article up as well, to give a balanced take and see who the right are covering the story. So yes, in a nutshell, the context, still the background to this. I mean, the Hollywood Reporter article is going to go into it. The awful optics of CBS cancelling the Late Show with Stephen Colbert. The demise of late night television. I think everyone is in agreement. It's sort of television at large is in decline. Everything's going towards streaming. Everything's going towards sort of, not being judged on ratings so much. And obviously, the shows that are on network TV are being judged on ratings. And so Stephen Colbert, Jimmy Kimmel, Jimmy Fallon, I think they're the only ones left. They're being judged on ratings, and the ratings haven't been great for any of them. It's safe to say for the last few years. Certainly they've been in decline. They go into the article in a shocking move that reflected just about every deeply felt insecurity in the TV industry, the entertainment industry, and perhaps American media at large. CBS announced on Thursday, July 17th, The Late Show with Stephen Colbert will wrap its run in May 2026 following the 2025-26 broadcast season. So that is, I think it's March or May next year. He may even go earlier than that. It depends on how he responds to this. Eager to emphasise this wasn't a Colbert-specific thing, CBS in its statement said that the entire Late Show franchise is coming to an end. That is a key point. We'll come back to that. This isn't quite the same in historical terms as the legacy shift that would occur if NBC announced the end of The Tonight Show. The Late Show was David Letterman, and then it was Stephen Colbert. Not an endless and storied parade of hosts, but its a degree of finality that few could have expected. So, circling back to that point there, and as we analyse sort of the timeline of events, and before we have a look at how Fox are covering this, because clearly the Hollywood Reporter is on Stephen Colbert's side, saying it's a very political move. The reason it's a political move, for anyone who doesn't know, they're accusing the network of cancelling Stephen Colbert for political reasons. They're saying that Paramount and Skydance, so I covered in a previous video about South Park, who may have revealed way too much with regards to this story now, a few days later, how relevant that video is. I'll leave a link at the end of the video for that. So Skydance is trying to buy Paramount. Paramount owns CBS. CBS broadcasts Stephen Colbert. Now, Skydance needs government approval for that takeover because, similar to when Disney bought Fox, they need, in terms of competition rules and so forth, if companies keep, if there's one big company that keeps buying all the other media corporations, then it becomes, less of a open market. It becomes very much more of a closed shop, and therefore you're only getting one agenda-driven voice, ironically. So they they needed government approval. Obviously, the head of the government at the moment is President Trump. CBS have done a deal with President Trump because 60 Minutes, which is a news broadcast show on their network, selectively edited a Kamala Harris interview with select clips of Trump to make him seem worse than he actually was, I believe. And so they've dealt out of court around the fee of $16 million. ABC News did a similar thing, which is owned by Disney. So you can see the accusation from left-wing pundits that the media networks are now bowing the knee to the president because of all these sort of deals that they're making. But essentially, it's a debate that will go on, and people always have their own agendas. But if they are mischaracterizing events and they are supposed to be news networks, then obviously they are subject to rules that entertainment shows or pundits aren't subject to. That said, slander is slander, and if they're subject to legal filings, then here we are. So people are always going to take one view or the other on that. However, you can't just say whatever you want about someone regardless of how they stand in the political sphere or in reality. So you sort of, I take a real step back point of view on that. Nevertheless, we'll circle back to the CBS thing. So as CBS dealt a deal with the president to, make that lawsuit or that accusation go away, similar to ABC News, then you have Colbert coming out on Tuesday's show, I believe, accusing, his network, CBS, Paramount, Skydance, whoever you want to think it of doing the deal and essentially paying a bribe to Trump to get the deal through for the purchase of Paramount and all its, subsidiaries. And obviously, then a day later, he announces he's been cancelled. So here we are up to scratch with the timeline of events, and now the internet's got sort of had a meltdown one way or the other, whether they're supporting him being cancelled or not, depending on where they stand politically. Sorry, that's a rambly way of getting to where we got to, but there's a timeline of events. And we'll go back to the article from the Hollywood Reporter. Actually, the statement from CBS Brass had a lot of things to do, if we wanted to emphasise. This is purely a financial decision, they said, against a challenging backdrop in late night, the statement read. It is not related in any way to the show's performance, content, or other matters happening at Paramount. Methinks the CBS triumvirate, George Cheeks, Amy Reisenbach, and David Staff, who are obviously CBS employees or heads, doth emphasise too much because, here we go, they're going to think pieces rather than independent journalism. And therefore we must trust them for official purposes. I'm sure that, and they're going to the reasons, as I think it's outrageous that they were cancelled. Now let's circle to Fox, obviously right-wing leaning, they're going to be anti-Stephen Colbert. Stephen Colbert was reportedly losing CBS $40 million a year. That has been confirmed by very independent journalists as well, that essentially late night's been losing money for a long time. It's been propped up by advertising revenue, ironically, and we won't get into that, by allegedly mostly medical pharmaceutical companies. I'm not touching that, I'm just saying that's what's been reported. And obviously that money started to dry up with the president now in place where he is. A new report is putting a spotlight on the finances of The Late Show. As critics speculate, the CBS cancellation was a political move to silence its anti-Trump host, Stephen Colbert. Puck News, reported the Late Night Show has been losing more than $40 million a year for CBS, and that had a budget of more than $100 million per season, contrasting it with network's daytime and primetime programming, which he noted were still profitable. Maybe slightly. Late Show, with its topical humour, celebrity interviews pegged to specific projects, has struggled on Paramount Plus. And of three network late night shows, I was laughing because Paramount say it does really well, and sort of, like I said, it depends where you sit politically. Left say it does really well, right says it does really poorly. Here we are with the subjectivity issue, as I said at the beginning. And of the 3 network late night shows, Late Show has by far the smallest digital footprint on YouTube and other platforms, Bologna wrote. So from a business perspective, the cancellation makes sense. So here we go. I'm not going to go into the whole article. You can see it's a very sort of Marmite issue. You're either for it or you're against it. You can see the rationale, you can't see the rationale. Here we are with the and then we've got this, which is the latest wrinkle, and I've gone to the Guardian for this for some reason, but the Writers' Union has urged the investigation into Paramount move to cancel Colbert Show. The Writers Guild of America requests the New York Attorney General, who is anti-Trump I believe, investigate potential wrongdoing after its shock cancellation. The Writers Guild has called on New York state officials to launch an investigation into Paramount following its sudden decision to cancel The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. In a strongly worded statement issued on Friday, the Writers Guild of America East and the Writers Guild of America West there we go. asked the New York State Attorney General, which are Democrat voting areas, if you can see my chuckle there, Letitia James, to investigate Paramount over potential wrongdoing after the company announced cancellation of The Late Show on Thursday. Its unions pointed to Paramount's decision earlier this month to settle what it condemned as a baseless lawsuit brought against 60 Minutes and CBS News by Donald Trump for $60 million. I'm not even going to comment on that. I think it's in the eye of the beholder. Trump had claimed that CBS News misleadingly edited an interview with Kamala Harris last fall during the presidential campaign. Again, sort of showing bias is what I think the lawsuit was all about. Where I stand on this, I think sort of all of this can be true, and all of it sort of doesn't have to be either. I think, here's the facts. The Late Show was losing money. Trump was suing its network. The network did need approval from the government, aka Trump, to get that sale from Skydance across, and Colbert called out his bosses on TV for said deal. All of this could be true, and here we are with Stephen Colbert being probably one of the most vocal, especially the late night hosts, vocal critics of Donald Trump over the last 10 years, and he's the one who's carried the can, if you like. Jimmy Kimmel, I think, is on holiday at the moment. It'll be interesting to see. Well, he's already tweeted his support for Stephen Colbert, obviously. But it'll be interesting to see what he does, because he is in a similar boat. His contract is up next year at Disney. So Disney have already been accused of bending the knee to Donald Trump, with Bob Iger going to Mar-a-Lago and all that sort of stuff. And so here's a balance. You want, obviously, a entertainment industry that's paid to entertain. If your show is there to be satirical and point out, make fun of everyone, then it should be advocating doing that. South Park's a great example, because again, they scattergun their targets to everybody. Everyone's a target. They have no inherent bias or leanings. They probably do, but they don't display it. They go for everyone. And I think to have an entertainment industry that's very biased in one direction, this is now sort of, in my opinion, the chicken's coming home to roost. And I think I would hope the rationale was the financial. I think from Paramount's point of view, it made all the sense in the world to to rein in the finances, because they're hemorrhaging money every year on a show that isn't bringing a lot to the party in terms of views or ratings or even finances, and it's losing money. In which case, if you're a business, you cut the cost. That said, I think it's interesting that there wasn't a new host takeover, so there wasn't a new direction or a reining in of the finances. And I'll just scale back to that statement. This is a purely financial decision against a challenging backdrop in late night. Absolutely, because all these shows are now losing revenue for the network. So that's why I think Jimmy Kimmel might be copped next, because again, Disney doesn't like to lose money, believe it or not. And I think his very staunchly anti-Trump rhetoric. Obviously, there's a contingent in the world that will be watching for to support him for that, and I'm sure he'll want to die on his sword in a similar way to Stephen Colbert. Whether Stephen Colbert saw this coming and decided to go out on TV and criticize Trump anyway, to sort of be able to, as the left are doing now, champion him as some sort of anti-Trump hero, then that again is subjective. If the network, like I said, I hope the network made it for financial reasons rather than political ones, because I think that is a dangerous road to go down. If the president is being able to influence cancellations or censorship, then obviously no one wants that. No one would dare sort of argue for that. I think that is leading down a dictatorship, and I don't want to show support one way or the other, but I don't want that in the world, and neither do I'm sure most people. That said, if the show is losing money, if him being sort of very staunchly anti-Trump is a problem for them financially, and as Trey and Parker and Matt Stone revealed, that Skydance are clearly making decisions before the purchase has gone, and I don't know what the legal ramifications are of that, because they put the kibosh on their contract renewal, then here you are with a potential legal issue with Skydance making decisions for a company that hasn't yet purchased. I don't know where to go. So there's a litany of thoughts in there. What do you think? Where does your opinion lie on this? Do you care? That might be a case as well. Let me know in the comment section below. Happy to have a discussion about this with anyone. That's fine by me. It's not a problem. Please leave me a like and subscribe if you like this content. And I'll see you next time. Thank you so much. Bye bye.